During a Senate hearing in early 2026, a senator questioned Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem about ICE and Customs and Border Protection arrests of U.S. citizens. The senator opened by noting that Noem had maintained for a year that no U.S. citizens had been arrested or detained by these agencies, before finally admitting in a letter just last month that 38 U.S. citizens had been detained. The senator stated the actual number is far more, potentially in the hundreds, perhaps the thousands. 3 of those citizens were present in the hearing room: Leonardo Garcia Venegas, Javier Ramirez, and Marimar Martinez. According to the senator's account, all 3 were arrested or detained despite being U.S. citizens with proof of citizenship. One case involved an agent firing 5 rounds at a U.S. citizen on her way to donate clothing at church, then bragging about it on social media. When pressed on whether that agent remains on the job carrying a gun, Secretary Noem repeatedly stated she would look into it, but declined to commit to removing the agent or condemning the actions. The exchange reveals tensions about how immigration enforcement operations affect U.S. citizens and what accountability exists when agents allegedly violate protocols. Watch how the senator presented the first case.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today. Madam Secretary, for a year, you maintained that no U.S. citizens have been arrested or detained by ICE or CBP. After hearings that I conducted in the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation as the ranking member, you admitted finally in a letter written to me just last month that, in fact, U.S. citizens have been detained and arrested. I'm going to ask, Mr. Chairman, that that letter be entered into the record. Thank you. You put the number as 38. Far more American citizens have been arrested by ICE and CBP, probably in the hundreds, perhaps the thousands. Have you met with any of the American citizens who have been detained or arrested by your agency?
The individuals that may have been detained and arrested were individuals that could have been obstructing law enforcement operations
you haven't met
and
with
committing
them,
crimes
correct?
that way, and that we would have
I'd like
been
to
individuals
introduce you to
until their
3
identity
of them.
was confirmed.
Leo, Javier, and Marimar, would you please stand? These 3 individuals, Madam Secretary, were arrested by your agency, Leonardo Garcia Venegas, Javier Ramirez, and Marimar Martinez. Do you know what your agents did to Leo Venegas? I'll tell you. On May 21 of last year, they entered the private property at a house that he was constructing without consent, without a warrant, illegally. Again, on June 12th, they entered private property, a home where he was doing construction. He is a United States citizen, born in Florida. They seized him and ignored and disregarded his proof of citizenship. Wouldn't you agree with me that no U.S. citizen simply working lawfully should be arrested?
In law enforcement operations across the country, there are times when U.S. citizens may be arrested or detained until their identity is confirmed
Madam
and that
Secretary, should not be arrested when they are obeying the law, they have no criminal record, and they are engaged in a lawful activity.
Sir, in situations where law enforcement, regardless of the agency across the country, when there is problem.
The senator's assertion that Leonardo Garcia Venegas was arrested twice on May 21st and June 12th of last year while working construction on private property forms the factual basis of the first case. According to the senator, agents entered private property without consent or warrant on both occasions and ignored Venegas's proof of U.S. citizenship despite him being born in Florida. Secretary Noem's response characterized detained individuals as potentially obstructing law enforcement operations and committing crimes and being held until their identity was confirmed. This suggests ICE's position: temporary detention of individuals whose citizenship status is being verified is permissible during enforcement operations. The legal question centers on Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure. The senator's description, agents entering private property without consent or warrant, would raise constitutional concerns if accurate. Courts have held that immigration agents generally need either consent, a warrant, or exigent circumstances to enter private property. However, ICE has asserted authority to conduct operations in public spaces and certain workplace settings without warrants. The agency's position is that immigration enforcement is a civil, not criminal matter in many contexts, which affects what level of suspicion is required for detention. The senator's statement that Venegas showed proof of citizenship but was ignored and disregarded suggests agents did not accept documentation presented. If accurate, this raises questions about what documentation ICE agents are required to accept as proof of citizenship and under what circumstances they can override such documentation. Statistics on U.S. citizen detentions by ICE are limited. A 2020 study by the Cato Institute found that ICE detained approximately 1,488 U.S. citizens between 2012 and 2018, with some held for weeks or months. The actual number may be higher as not all detentions are systematically tracked or reported. Watch how the senator presented the second and third cases, which involved physical violence and a shooting.
Let me tell you about Javier Ramirez. Do you know what your agents did to Javier Ramirez? He was on his own private property when he was assaulted by masked agents, his own property, without a warrant, without consent. They said, get him. He's Mexican. He was violently slammed into the ground while being handcuffed and taken into custody, despite telling officers that he is a United States citizen and even showing them his passport. And when he was asked what he was being arrested for, you know what they said? We don't know. Wouldn't you agree that targeting someone just because he is or looks like he is Mexican when he is a United States citizen is wrong?
Senator, we do not target people based on their race or ethnicity. We do targeted operations based on criminal backgrounds and information that we have.
Madam Secretary, Javier was detained for over 4 days. He was denied medicine that he needed for severe diabetes. He lost consciousness. He had severe hypoglycemia. Wouldn't you agree with me that medical treatment should have been provided to him?
Senator,
denied.
Medical treatment is provided to individuals in our processing and detention centers. Within 12 hours, they have a medical examination. We get them the prescriptions and medication that they need. They also have a full evaluation.
Will you commit to take action and to look into why he was denied medical treatment?
Yes, I will look into that case specifically for you, Senator.
Marimar Martinez is with us today as well. She's standing right behind you. She was on her way to donate clothing at her church when she came across an unmarked car. The agents sideswiped her car. 3 masked agents in camouflage stormed out, and one of them pulled out his gun and fired at her moving vehicle, hitting her 5 times. She almost bled to death. Wouldn't you agree that shooting Miramar Martinez on her way to donate clothing at her church, a United States citizen from Chicago, is wrong?
Sir, I don't know the situation or the case. I'll look into it to ensure that all the procedures
I'm glad you'll
were followed
look into
properly.
it.
The ground agents responded, the ground agents responded, we don't know when asked what he was being arrested for. He was detained over 4 days, denied diabetes medication, and lost consciousness from severe hypoglycemia. Secretary Noem's response emphasized that ICE do not target people based on their race or ethnicity, but rather conduct targeted operations based on criminal backgrounds and information. This represents ICE's official policy position. However, Noem's subsequent statement about medical treatment protocols, that detainees receive medical examinations within 12 hours and get needed prescriptions and medication, appears to contradict the senator's claim that Ramirez was denied diabetes medication for over 4 days. Noem committed to look into that case specifically, acknowledging a potential discrepancy between policy and what allegedly occurred. ICE detention standards require medical screening within 12 hours of arrival and access to necessary medications. Denial of medication for serious conditions like diabetes could violate these standards and potentially constitute deliberate indifference to medical needs, which courts have found unconstitutional in detention settings. The Marimar Martinez case, as described by the senator, involved an ICE agent firing 5 rounds at a U.S. citizen's moving vehicle, hitting her 5 times while she was on her way to donate clothing at her church. The senator stated 3 agents in camouflage emerged from an unmarked car that sideswiped her car. Use of deadly force by federal law enforcement is governed by policies that generally require agents to have reasonable belief that the subject poses an imminent threat of death or serious physical injury. Firing at a moving vehicle is typically prohibited unless the vehicle itself is being used as a weapon against the agent or others. Secretary Noem's response: I don't know the situation or the case. I'll look into it. Did not address whether shooting a U.S. citizen 5 times under the circumstances described would be justified. Watch how the exchange concluded with revelations about the agent's social media posts.
Miramar, by the way, was falsely charged with impeding law enforcement, but the case actually fell apart. The judge dismissed it as being trumped up. He dismissed it with prejudice. And in fact, the agent who shot her, I'm not going to name him, but you know who he is, was quoted on social media the day or so afterward. And he said, quote, I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys. And quote, cool, I'm up for another round of F around and find out. Will you join me in condemning that agent?
Sir, that situation, I don't know the details of, but I will look into that.
I don't know why you can't join me in saying it was wrong to shoot Miramar, almost cause her death, and then brag about it. Wouldn't you agree with me that it was wrong?
Well, sir, the way that you have portrayed it, it appears to be, but let me look into the case so I can speak to the specifics of it.
In fact, apparently, contrary to what you just said, you actually supported the agent who shot Ms. Martinez 5 times. He's quoted as saying, when he was asked, everyone has been supportive, including Chief Bovino, Chief Banks, Secretary Noem, and El Jefe himself, referring presumably to President Trump. Is the agent who shot Ms. Martinez still on the job?
Sir, our law enforcement officers conduct operations every day according to procedures and to training and the experience that they have. When there is something that is not done
Ms.
properly,
Martinez still on the job carrying a gun?
I don't know the details. I will find out and get that information to you.
Would you agree with me that he shouldn't be on the job carrying a gun?
I will look into this case and get back to you on the details. I'm not familiar with it.
I think Americans would find it absolutely terrifying that that agent is still on the job carrying a gun. And the fact that you can't tell me that you will take him off?
Sir, do you know who Angel Samanago is? Do you recognize that name?
This
is an individual that was murdered in your state by an illegal alien,
of rights and trust.
Duct taped.
The answers are
It looked
very
like it was
simple,
an assassination.
And I would have hoped
I haven't
that
heard you say
you
one
could give
victim's
better
name
answers today
from illegal
to these
immigrants that
3
are here
individuals.
perpetuating
Would you like
violence
to say
against
anything,
people?
Ms. Miramar,
I'd
Ms.
like to hear you
Ramirez,
say the
or
name
Mr.
of one of our victims
Venegas?
of illegal criminal activity and fight for one of those victims so that we can stop as many of them from being created in the future by people who should never be in this country to begin with.
The senator's presentation of the agent's social media posts: I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys, and cool. I'm up for another round of F around and find out, represents a specific factual claim about the agent's conduct after shooting a U.S. citizen. The senator also stated that criminal charges against Martinez for impeding law enforcement were dismissed with prejudice by a judge who found them trumped up. Secretary Noem declined multiple times to condemn the shooting or the social media posts, stating she needed to look into the case and speak to the specifics. When pressed on whether the agent remains employed and armed, Noem would not commit to removing him, stating only, I will find out and get that information to you. The senators claim that the agent reportedly said, everyone has been supportive, including Chief Bo, Chief Bank, Secretary Noem, and Elf himself, referring presumably to President Trump, suggests, according to the senator, that leadership supported the agent after the shooting incident. Noem's pivot at the end, asking if the senator knows who Angel Sono is and criticizing him for not naming victims of illegal criminal activity, represents a rhetorical deflection. Rather than addressing the specific cases of U.S. citizens allegedly wrongfully detained or shot, Noem shifted to discussing crimes committed by undocumented immigrants. What the exchange reveals is a pattern. When presented with specific allegations of constitutional violations against U.S. citizens by ICE agents, the Secretary of Homeland Security declined to condemn the conduct, commit to accountability measures, or confirm basic facts like whether an agent who allegedly shot a U.S. citizen 5 times and bragged about it remains armed and on duty. This is the kind of moment where informed citizens make the difference. Hit subscribe, share this video, and stay engaged. Don't let these decisions be made without scrutiny.